It's all right, Cavani struggled there because he knew I was in today for Willard. He's like, it's Whitey and Dibs today, right? So anyway, no problem. Kevon Looney last night, disastrous loss for the Warriors, right? 130-129 to the Magic. But Kevon Looney was really, really good. Kevon Looney last night, 17 points, 8 of 11 from the floor, 7 rebounds and 3 assists. He did have 5 fouls, but Kevon Looney had an excellent game last night.
And he's turned into a great player, especially for this team. So smart, the ability to set screens and defend on the switches. He's not the problem. And even, Wiggins, a pretty quiet kind of K-Wig game. We don't have the K-Wig anymore, but that last night was kind of a
format
classic.
May be coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
to the market.
6 of 12 for 15. It feels like...
Missed that layup.
Yeah, it just felt like he kind of turned it off a little bit in the fourth quarter when they needed a little bit of an extra punch to try to get some distance against Orlando. But again, wouldn't fault him for that loss. It's really tough to look at this team, and you look at the starting 5, and you mentioned it, the numbers, the metrics, they all show you that starting 5 is a good 5. And even when
really
Jordan Poole's in there, with Jordan Poole in and Kevon out, that 5, the undersized 5, the fast 5, so to speak, that 5 is really good. But you can't play these guys 48 minutes a night, so then you go to the bench and you've got problems.
Going into last night, I believe that the starting 5 was the most effective, depending on which metric you use, most effective 5-man unit in the NBA. So, as Dibs said earlier here, it's not hard to identify the problem or the problems, but what do you do about them? To me, the fact that Steve Kerr last night talked about where we're going to have to make some rotation changes, what does he have to go to? If he's going to Kuminga, which seems likely, and Kuminga hadn't been playing, then he's desperately looking for answers.
Yes.
Yeah, because Kuminga has not played well enough to get onto the floor, and now you may have to play him just because you have to play somebody, and the guys we've been playing aren't producing. So 888-957-9570, Xfinity Mobile text line. Give us a call. If you text us, put your name on it. What do you do? If you're Steve Kerr, what do you do right now?
That's really the million-dollar question, because Jonathan Kuminga's played 65 minutes the entire year, and another DNP yesterday. He played 3 minutes against Charlotte. He played 7 minutes against Sac. These are not rotational minutes that show you that Steve Kerr and company have a lot of faith in Jonathan Kuminga. Something's up with Kuminga. Either he's not playing with enough force and interest, he doesn't know where to be, he doesn't know how to play defensively, all of the above. Maybe it's the attitude, maybe it's the effort. Whatever it is, Steve Kerr has not felt compelled to put him out there in any situation, even in garbage time, really. He hasn't played much at all. So do you go to Jonathan Kuminga now, coming off a game where, you had Ty Jerome in there. You played 10 guys.
Ty Jerome's pretty good. For what he is, he's pretty good. But I know he's not the answer or anything.
He's all right.
Yeah.
He
can shoot. He knows what he's doing.
Well, he knows what he's doing.
Great inbounds pass to Clay last
night. On the
night.
final play last night, Steph gets doubled, and you drop it off to Clay. Jerome is in the short corner. Why is he on that side of the floor? He should have been.
He can shoot.
But then why not throw him the ball and have Clay go to the other side? Something was broken with that last play. You had 3 guys on the same side of the court, and then Clay drove to the baseline, basically right in front of Ty Jerome.
888-957-9570. So what's the answer from here? On the text line here, we're getting a lot of them rolling in. We appreciate it. People wondering about Draymond from the 310. How to resolve the Dre situation. It's split the team and he's lost his influence. That's easy to say. I don't know. The lost his influence thing is the most interesting aspect of that comment. I heard, Bonte and Butch talking about that. Dibs, how managers and coaches, and again, speaking of managers, Bruce Bochy at 10 o'clock. Managers and coaches sometimes in sports, after a while, they lose their influence. It's like the people that they're leading have heard it all before, and at some point, they tune out the message. I wonder if that can happen with a guy like Draymond. And I'm putting the punch aside. Certainly that doesn't help, and I don't mean to gloss over it, but just the way he leads and yells at everybody, after a while, maybe it's the older guys, like I've heard it before, and the young guys just don't want to hear it, perhaps.
See, I don't think you can put the punch aside, because I think the punch is what made it so he can be dismissed now so easily, because
that put it over the edge with some of these guys.
Right. Okay. If you're a young player and you see what he did to Jordan Poole, and whether or not you thought he should have been punished or not, that I'll put that aside, because it's none of our business. They can handle that however they want to handle it. I don't think that I would have handled it that way as a coach, a GM, and a front office, but they decided that this would be the course of action. And by the way, you started out 3-6. So I don't know if those two things go hand in hand, but maybe if you would have suspended Draymond Green for a handful of games, maybe you'd still be 3-6.
Maybe.
But maybe you wouldn't have this seemingly divided locker room, because right now it doesn't feel like they're playing with a lot of joy. And we know that defense takes two things, intelligence and effort. And you still have smart players. I'm not saying that they all forgot how to play defense, but you don't see that same passion, that togetherness, because defense is a team concept. And, the starters are playing okay defense, and then the reserves aren't. And, you see some heads dropping, you see some pouting, you see a team that isn't playing with a lot of joy.
Yeah, you see last night, Steph unhappy with the screen he's getting from Wiseman. Wiseman rolling and throwing up his hands, apparently like, I didn't get the ball, which like, you cannot do that. In addition to what you said, and obviously we all know you're absolutely right. Defense, you got to have desire, you got to have an attitude, but you do also have to have the athletic skills to defend, which is maybe one of the hardest things to do in sports at the NBA level. And the last couple of games, the Warriors have been getting beaten by young, athletic teams. So I think that calls into question the athleticism of this team again. And as far as the attitude, to me, Dibs, the Warriors are playing like a team that knows right now we're not a very good team. These veterans have been on championship teams. They know what a championship team is. They look around and they know that this team isn't very good. And I think that's why they're not having fun. And I also noticed other teams, you really noticed it last night, that third quarter, Orlando's down 16. How many times have we seen a bad team get behind against the Warriors and kind of, mail it in? They played hard because they know and other teams know the Warriors can't stop you, so you're behind. That's all right. You still have a shot.
Right. And also, we haven't seen in the past a team down 16 come back and win the game. We've seen teams cut it to 7.
That's the nature of the game.
Yeah,
sure.
Then the Warriors will exert their will, push it back to 12, and they win by 17, 18. That's the way it used to go. But you're right, Whitey. These other teams know that defensively you can have your way with this team. And you look at every game. I mean, these guys all have league pass, and they see Detroit, and they see Charlotte.
Free preview's over, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm afraid it is. Got to pony up, Get out that wallet, get out that Cash App.
Spend the money to keep my blue check or spend it on League Pass. Well, anyway.
Yeah, that blue check is going to be gone. When do they start charging for that? Is
I don't
that this
know, but
week?
I'm with you. I don't plan on.
I just sacrifice
re-upping.
that. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to re-up for a service that's been free for 11 years.
Right.
Now you're going to try to charge me?
Yes, sir.
That's not happening. But to your point, teams get down and they feel like they can rally. And, the Warriors still were in a great position in the fourth quarter to still win the darn ball game.
Yeah.
But Jalen Suggs with a huge three, and then that ill-fated last possession.
And I tell you what, we're kind of piling on Wiseman sometimes, it seems like. But I noticed this against Detroit on Sunday. When Wiseman comes in, Isaiah Stewart, who probably has some things to prove there, he feels he has some things to prove against Wiseman, a center who was taken in his draft class. You can almost see him start to salivate. Like Wiseman comes in the game, and other teams see that. They go, okay, we are attacking him because they know he's a foul machine right now, and he's really not a very good defender.
Yeah, 3 fouls in 10 minutes last night, and the Warriors 32 fouls. They're fouling too much.
They are. They fouled a lot last year, too, but just not as much.
Not
they were
at this rate.
Third most in the league last year.
In fouls committed?
Yeah, I believe they were.
And that's going to be the way it goes when you have a player like Draymond Green who, he seeks out contact defensively, and he gets away with a lot because he's Draymond Green. And Kevon Looney plays a physical brand of basketball, and Steph Curry
against
always
a lot of bigger guys.
Yeah, and Steph tends to get at least one or two of those cheapy reach calls throughout the course of his day. And Jordan Poole, not a very good disciplined defender
Reacherson?
either. Yeah, that's. I think he's on the bench for the Warriors.
Yeah. 888-957-9570. Robert joins us from San Jose on 95.7 The Game. Robert, you're on with Dibs and Whitey. What's up? Hello, Robert. Is Robert with us?
And
hey, Robert, start over,
hello?
please. We didn't get. Yeah, you're on the air. Please start over. We didn't get the benefit of your initial comments there.
Well, I think in my opinion, the Warriors have not committed fully to the 2-timeline situation. I heard Bonte and Shasky talking about how Orlando's young guys are playing and how New Orleans young guys are playing. They get to play. They're going to play 30 minutes. whether they stink or not. They're going to get to play. Moody should be getting 20 to 24 minutes, period. Wiseman should be getting 20 to 24 minutes, period. Same with Kuminga. We know what JaMychal Green is. We know what DiFrancesco is. And Ty Jerome should not be on the damn floor. If you're going to do a two-timeline situation, commit to it. Commit to those guys where they know they're going to play. That's the only way they're going to get better.
Thank you, Robert. I disagree with you as much as I appreciate your call.
Well, I like what he's saying, and I don't disagree with the idea in a vacuum, but the problem is Steph, Clay, and Draymond are not going to suffer through 24 minutes of James Wiseman and 20 minutes of Jonathan Kuminga. They're not going to be able to play the way that this team plays because Kuminga doesn't play the right way. He doesn't play the Warrior way, and Wiseman doesn't play that way either. Now,
No,
Moses
I agree.
Moody's a guy I think you can see his minutes start to increase and graduate because he kind of gets the way that the Warriors play, but the other
does.
two guys aren't there yet.
Right. Here's why I disagree, Robert. You mentioned Wiseman, and we all know they tried to play Wiseman, especially his rookie year. They tried to play him a lot, and he just couldn't stay on the floor health-wise. So they tried to commit to him. This year, they're trying to keep him on the floor, and he can't stay on the floor. I mean, you commit fouls, you can't stay on the floor. Kuminga, last year, they tried to ease him into things. And remember, Steve Kerr would say, oh, he's going to play now. He's part of the rotation. 2 games later, he'd be out of the rotation. What happened? There are, issues apparently with him failing to show up on time for things. Draymond mentioned that. So I think they've tried to get to a point where right now this transition would be smoother, but for various reasons they have not been able to keep those guys on the floor, and they just have not played well when they've had their opportunities. Robert, I know you'd say, well, you got to play them more, but you mentioned New Orleans. They got, Alvarado? Watch out for him tonight. Sneaky in the backcourt, Dibs. He'll rob you blind on the inbounds.
Oh, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Murphy and Jones, those guys last year when they had their chances, they played well. And no matter what you say about Steve Kerr, Kuminga and Wiseman, when they've had their chances, especially Kuminga, they have not played well. And you have to play well when you have the chance.
And you have to earn your minutes on this team. You don't just get minutes given to you because you were highly drafted. And that's never been the way of Steve Kerr and this regime, to where, you were taking number 2 overall, you're getting 25 minutes a night.
Well, remember, they did do that a little bit with Wiseman, then they decided not to do that, and they went back and forth with that. But you're right.
And they went back and forth because they realized what was happening when he was on the floor. They were not playing great, and they were struggling. Yet, you're in a spot now where, Steph and Clay and Draymond, you don't want to have them play 36, 38 minutes a game this early in the year. You want to slowly graduate their minutes up. You're never going to have them play that much. So there's so many minutes that have to be used for other players, but who do you play?
Let me tell you something about Dibs that I don't think everybody knows.
Nice.
Thanks. When Dibs says flaw, he's doing, of course, Mark Jackson, as you probably know. But years ago, when we were interviewing Mark Jackson, Dibs did for Coach Mark Jackson, at the time Coach of the Warriors, his Mark Jackson. Remember that? And Mark Jackson said, that's pretty good. Yeah. He was a fan of your Mark Jackson.
There's
Mark
some
Jackson
hand
being what he is,
down in there.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he just said, no, I don't stand anything like that. But he said, no, that's pretty good.
It was a good sport about it. And I will not do my Bruce Bochy for Bruce Bochy here in 15 minutes.
Bochy moratorium.
That's Mark's thing.
Right.
Mark has done his Boch. We call it Bruce Nochi when he does his Nochi. But he's done his Bochy for Boch. But I don't have a Boch.
Yeah, some people on the text line point out that that's mean to have Boch on when Willard's not here. But it was just a matter of Boch's schedule.
Yeah, it's the way that goes sometimes.
Yes. 888-957-9570. Reginald joins us from, are you familiar, Dibs, with Dallas, Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's up, Reggie?
Hey, man, I've 3 quick things. I've had an opportunity to look at the Warrior games, not only as far as the regular season, but also preseason. And this is what I've gathered. When I look at Wiseman is huge, but as far as just being fundamentally sound, he's not. There is no way that someone that big, 7 feet, 7'2", 260, 270, is being pushed around in the middle. He's a liability. He can't play defense. He can't block shots. That's one. Kuminga's problem is I haven't yet to see any improvement as far as his overall game. He likes to take the ball, drive to the basket. He has not improved on his outside shot. He has not improved on his versatility. You have to be able to do that to be in the Warrior system. Number 3, Ty Jerome. How in God's name did he make the Warriors team? I would have gladly taken McCullough over him because McCullough is an offensive player, and he can move the ball as a threat. If you look at the Warriors right now, the Warriors go about 6.5 deep. I'm calling Moody because I love Moody. Moody's upside is through the roof. He gets it. He fits in that system perfectly. But after that, what's his name? Jermichael Green.
Jermichael Green, yeah.
Useless. After that, DiVincenzo. He's been hurt. He's doing the same thing he did when he was in Milwaukee, when he was in Sacramento. Injured, not reliable. So if you look at that, the Warriors really do not have anyone that can come off the bench that can actually contribute. When they had Otto and they had GP, you had people. They had a stretch three. You could take out what's it called? Not Green, but I can't think right now.
Looney?
But you could you're not the small forward.
Wiggins, yeah. Wiggins, sorry. Yeah.
You could take out Wiggins, you could sub him, and what they would do, they would put in Otto. Otto could stretch the floor, and he was a damn good defensive player. So you didn't replace that. People put the emphasis on, well, they let GP go. The biggest key that's hurt the Warriors, they have nobody that can play the stretch three position that can stretch the floor and play defense. When they lost Otto, and even when they lost, Bieliza? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that.
Yeah, sure.
And even Juan Toscano-Anderson is a guy who can come in and play some defense.
Right.
D-Lee, too.
When those two important integral parts left, and then you have Bob, and I got to put this on Bob. You replace those two players with people that cannot shoot the ball. If it was me, because I know you have other callers, if this was me, and if I was Bob, this is what I would do. I would trade Wiseman to the Pacers. I would get Turner. Turner would be the perfect fit. He can block shots, he can rim protect, and he can also stretch the floor. He would be a perfect integral part for the Warriors because when Looney gets in foul trouble or whatever, they can have a viable person that comes off the bench that can play defense and that can rim protect. Kuminga, if I could trade, I feel like this. Kuminga has a sense of entitlement. That's the problem. He has a sense of entitlement. He's relying on his raw skill instead of developing into being an all-around player. If I could trade those two and get Turner and another player, somebody else that could stretch the floor,
Got you, Reginald. Thank you for the call.
Thank you.
Either change the batteries on your smoke alarm or your waffles are done.
One of the two.
I'm not sure which it is. Couple things there. I don't think the Pacers would want Wiseman. That's the thing. A number 2 pick, value down. I think it's a bad time to trade him. If you could get somebody like that, maybe look at it.
Miles Turner. Turner's going to be a free agent, and so that's.
Could you afford to re-sign him if you're
the Warriors? That's the thing. Is you can't afford to re-sign him. So you trade Wiseman, who I'm not ready to give up on James Wiseman, and I'm not ready to sell low on James Wiseman, which is what you'd be doing if you wanted to trade Wiseman now. His stock is not where it should be, but he's got to get better between now and what time's the game today?
5,
yeah,
5-0, whatever, Yeah.
No, he's got to get better between now and the end of the year if you are really going to be a team that can make noise in the playoffs, because Reginald's right in terms of your depth. You got about 6.5 players, and I'm going to say 7 because I think Jermichael Green, he's a veteran player. He can come in and help you. And Moses Moody, those guys are probably half players right now. Mm-hmm. So you go 7 deep, which is no good in November.
Yeah, Reginald made some great points. I mean, Otto Porter Jr. was really good last year. That was just luck. He was coming off an injury, needed to show that he could play. Warriors provided a great situation for him and for the team, and they were lucky to have him. And now he makes too much money, and he's gone. The Warriors would have loved to have kept him. They just couldn't afford him. Ty Jerome, let me just say this. Ty Jerome's not a great player, but he's helped the Warriors. He's pretty good. And the thing is, he's probably played better for them than DiVincenzo has before he got hurt. So I'm not saying Ty Jerome's great, but the reason he's playing is because he's actually been productive, especially relative to what they've gotten from other guys on the floor, which speaks well of him and also speaks kind of poorly of the situation.
Yes, absolutely. Because he's been, I don't even know if he's been all right. He's been subpar, but
he's a good shooter.
He's an all right shooter. And to your point, I think you look at the overall construct of the bench, and you've got to play Ty Jerome. And the fact that he was in there at the end of the game that was a bit of a head scratcher. And, again, I mentioned it before, he's in the short corner where he would have been better served on the other side of the floor in terms of...
He's a knockdown shooter.
Yeah, so instead, Steph gets the ball, they double him, you give it to Clay, and you got Ty Jerome 5 feet away and his defender too.
888-957-9570. Let's go to Coach in Vallejo on 95.7 The Game. What's up, Coach?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Been listening to the show, great show. But I hope you don't take my comments the wrong way, because I kind of disagree with you about Jonathan Kuminga. Okay, Jonathan Kuminga, like you said, played 65 minutes, and those have been jerked in, jerked out minutes. Make one mistake, Kerr lose total confidence in him. I think Kerr has lost this young man, and if I was Jonathan Kuminga, and as high as I was drafted, I would demand a trade, because everyone in his draft class is playing except him. And that's really unfair to this young man, okay? Now, also, Jordan Poole, highly overrated. He's all elbows and long arms and herky jerk, but substance, he's the worst in the league in plus minus. What is he actually doing other than turning the ball over and shooting under 30% from the field, under 25% for three-pointers, and he plays 30 minutes a game? I think the Warriors hate to admit their draft mistakes. Wiseman was a draft mistake, okay, but they'll never admit it. And so Kerr does not have to be right, guys. He can be wrong. And I would like to see more critique on Coach Kerr.
Thanks, Coach Vallejo, my hometown. But the thing with Kuminga, the last thing he should do right now is demand a trade when, the Warriors aren't thrilled with the aspect of his approach, and then for him to demand a trade. The Warriors don't want to trade him right now either because value low and they don't want to give up on him. He just hasn't played well when he's had the chance.
Right, which is why you get the jerk in, jerk out minutes. And of course,
I think there's more to it too, Dibs, off the floor that we don't know about.
Right, and of course you would want him to be able to be in there for 6 to 8 minutes at a stretch, 2 or 3 times in a game, earn the minutes, play well, double-double, but he's not doing anything right now when he's on the court other than when he gets the ball, he's trying to attack the rim. The earlier caller, Reginald from Dallas, he's right. He hasn't developed much of an outside game. I have not seen a lot of improvement in his game, and defensively, he's not very good. He's not very aware, and he doesn't use his athleticism to his benefit. Well,
here's the big issue with the Warriors and with those two guys, and we don't know yet, but you remember when Kelly Oubre finally left after that play-in year. And Kelly Oubre had his moments. He had, a 43-point game against Dallas, so he had his moments, but overall we know it didn't work out. And Joe Lacob said when Kelly Oubre left, he said, you know what, we realized it matters. Well, I'm not sure the way, they're like AAU guys, Kuminga and Wiseman, they may not be fits for this system. They may be, it's too early to say, but the way they play, their natural tendencies, so far, it's been a difficult adjustment for them. I thought Kuminga made a real effort Sunday in Detroit. He tried really hard to play Warrior basketball, but it was a little forced. So that's the big issue now. We don't know the answer, but it's possible that neither one of those guys is a real fit for Warrior basketball.
And so when they're on the court, you have to adjust what you do in order to have those guys fit into the offensive scheme. And we see that with James Wiseman. They run a lot of high screen and roll when Wiseman's in because he's not good yet at the pass and move kind of offense.